大家好，我是 Jenny， 欢迎来到沉思者 J。今天要说的这个人，他小时候连自己身体都不听使唤，医生说他长不高，没有一支球队愿意付钱治疗他。但20年后，他捧起了世界杯冠军奖杯，全世界公认他是足坛史上最伟大的球员之一。他叫利昂内尔·梅西。今天我们就来说说他从一个发育迟缓的小男孩走到世界之巅的漫长旅程，还有那段等了将近20年才等到的眼泪。梅西1987年6月24日出生于阿根廷，出生地是罗萨里奥，一个以足球闻名的工业城市。家里是普通的工薪家庭，父亲在钢铁工厂工作，母亲是清洁工。梅西家里几乎人人都爱足球，他的哥哥们都踢球，他4岁多就跟着哥哥们在街头踢球，外婆常常带他去看球队练习，甚至替年纪不够的他说相，让教练愿意让他上场。梅西后来多次提到外婆对他的影响，他说每次进球之后，他习惯抬头望向天空，那是他怀念外婆的方式。小时候的梅西几乎机不离身，不是手机，是足球。邻居都说这个孩子走到哪里球就滚到哪里，吃饭睡觉以外的时间几乎都在踢球。他个子比同龄孩子矮小很多，街坊邻居都用小跳蚤这个绰号叫他，形容他在球场上灵活又难以捉摸的样子。他很少和同龄孩子玩耍嬉闹，反而喜欢跟着比自己年长好几岁的哥哥们踢球。在体型和力量都吃亏的情况下，他被迫练出更细腻的控球技巧，好弥补身材上的劣势。这个习惯意外成了他日后球风的根基。6岁那年，梅西加入了罗萨里奥当地的球队纽维尔老男孩青年队，他的天赋很快就展现出来。他个子矮小，却拥有惊人的控球和速度，对手球队的教练常常抱怨，说这么矮小的孩子，怎么可能符合报名表上写的年龄，怀疑他们用了假的出生证明。到梅西被巴塞隆纳相中之前，他在青年队比赛中打进了将近500颗进球，这个数字后来成为足坛津津乐道的传说。但就在梅西崭露头角的同时，一个严重的问题出现了。梅西10岁那年，医生发现他从9岁开始就几乎没有再长高，诊断结果是生长激素分泌不足症。如果不治疗，他成年后的身高可能连150公分都不到。治疗方式是每天注射生长激素，费用高昂，一个月要花上1000披索。对一个工薪家庭来说，这是难以负担的数字。梅西的父亲原本靠着公司保险支付了2年的疗程，纽维尔俱乐部一开始也答应要帮忙分摊费用，但后来俱乐部食言了。小小的梅西每天晚上必须自己动手，把针头刺进自己的大腿，注射生长激素。这个习惯持续了好几年。他后来说，那段时期让他学会了自律和忍耐。阿根廷国内另一支劲旅河床队曾经对梅西表示过兴趣，但同样因为负担不起庞大的医疗费用，最终选择放弃。梅西后来回忆那段每天自己打针的日子，语气里没有太多戏剧化的悲情。他说一开始确实会害怕，针头刺进皮肤的那一刻总是会痛，但久而久之，他学会了跟这份恐惧共处。他说那段经历让他很早就明白，有些痛苦没办法逃避，只能想办法跟他好好相处。这种早熟的坚韧，后来也反映在他球场上的性格里，即使被对手粗暴犯规，即使承受排山倒海的批评，他很少表现出情绪失控的一面，仿佛童年那些咬牙撑过的夜晚，早就替他打好了心理的底子。转机出现在2000年，巴塞隆纳的球探卡莱斯·雷萨奇在阿根廷看过梅西练球之后，当场被他的天赋震撼。雷萨奇急著想确定这笔交易，身边却找不到正式的合约纸张，他就在一张餐厅里的纸巾上写下了口头约定的内容。 承诺巴塞隆纳会支付梅西的医疗费用，让他加入拉玛西亚青训学院。这张著名的餐巾纸合约，后来成为足坛最广为流传的故事之一。梅西一家人为的是这个机会，举家搬迁到西班牙巴塞隆纳，展开了完全陌生的新生活。他的父亲留在巴塞隆纳陪读，母亲则带着其他孩子先留在阿根廷。一家人被迫分隔两地好一段时间。在拉玛西亚，梅西持续接受生长激素治疗，直到14岁那年才终于完成疗程。最终，他的成年身高定格在170公分左右。虽然仍然算是矮小的球员，但已经远远超过当年医生最悲观的预测。梅西很快就成为拉玛西亚青训体系里最耀眼的一批球员之一。那支青年队后来被称为梦幻宝贝军团，培养出好几位日后在世界足坛呼风唤雨的球星。2004年，梅西正式代表巴塞隆纳一军出赛，当时他只有17岁，是俱乐部队史最年轻的出场球员之一。2005年，梅西打进了他代表巴塞隆纳的第一颗正式进球，助攻他的球员是当时的球王级人物罗纳迪诺。这颗进球被视为一个时代交棒的象征。接下来的10几年，梅西在巴塞隆纳缔造了难以想象的纪录。他多次率队拿下欧洲冠军联赛冠军，个人也不断刷新进球纪录。他一共8次拿下被视为足坛个人最高荣誉的金球奖，这个数字至今仍然是历史纪录，没有任何一位球员能够打破。这段时期，梅西还有一个绕不开的话题，就是他和葡萄牙球星 C 罗之间长达10几年的竞争。两人几乎在同一个年代称霸足坛，一个内敛寡言，一个张扬自信，两种完全不同的性格与球风，让球迷之间吵了将近20年谁才是最将的球员。这场竞争客观上也把两人都推向了更高的境界。2009年，梅西率领巴塞隆纳在单一球季拿下所有能拿的6座冠军，这个成就至今仍是俱乐部足球史上难以复制的纪录。那段时期的巴塞隆纳阵容，后来被许多球评称为足坛史上最伟大的球队之一。然而在俱乐部战无不胜的梅西，在阿根廷国家队的旅途却走得异常艰辛。多年来，外界不断质疑他，说他在巴塞隆纳踢得再好，一旦穿上阿根廷球衣就变了一个人，甚至有评论说他不够关心自己的祖国。2014年世界杯，梅西率领阿根廷一路踢进决赛，最终在延长赛中不敌德国队，与冠军擦身而过。2015年美洲杯决赛，阿根廷再度在点球大战中饮恨。1年之后的2016年美洲杯决赛，同样的剧本又重演了一次，连续3年闯进大赛决赛，却连续3年在最后一步跌倒。梅西赛后在场边崩溃，一度宣布退出国家队。2018年世界杯，阿根廷同样表现不如预期，16强就被淘汰出局。外界质疑他的声浪一波接着一波，有评论甚至说梅西这辈子注定与世界杯冠军无缘。那一刻对梅西而言，是他职业生涯最低潮的时刻之一。他觉得自己好像永远没有办法替国家队拿下一座重要奖杯。但后来在球迷和队友的劝说下，梅西改变了心意，决定重新归队，继续追逐那个看似遥不可及的梦想。2021年，转机终于出现，阿根廷在美洲杯决赛对上死对头巴西队，比赛地点就在巴西著名的马拉卡纳球场。阿根廷最终以1-0击败地主巴西，结束了长达28年没有拿下重要冠军的纪录。梅西终于在为国效力的舞台上，捧起了他人生第1座成年队大赛冠军。这场胜利被视为梅西整个职业生涯最重要的转折点。之前所有关于他不够爱国的质疑，在这一刻几乎全部烟消云散。2021年球季结束后，由于巴塞隆纳陷入严重财务危机， 梅西被迫离开他效力将近20年的俱乐部，转战法国豪门巴黎圣日耳曼。这次转会震惊了整个足坛，很多球迷难以想象梅西身穿巴塞隆纳以外球衣的画面。在巴黎的日子，梅西协助球队拿下联赛冠军，但整体表现与外界的高度期待仍有一段落差。真正属于梅西的高光时刻，在2022年世界杯降临了。那届世界杯在卡达举行，梅西已经35岁，外界普遍认为这将是他参加的最后一届世界杯。阿根廷在小组赛爆出冷门，输给沙乌地阿拉伯，外界一片看衰的声浪，甚至有人断言阿根廷可能连小组赛都无法出现。但梅西和队友顶住压力，接下来每一场比赛都全力以赴。8强赛踢赢了荷兰，4强赛又击败了实力坚强的克罗埃西亚，一路过关斩将打进决赛。比赛过程中，梅西展现出超越年龄的沉稳与领导力，场边记录到他不断鼓励年轻队友的画面，也让外界看见了这位球王更成熟温柔的一面。决赛对手是法国队，还有当时如日中天的年轻球星姆巴佩。那场决赛被许多球评形容为世界杯史上最精彩的一场决赛。梅西率先为阿根廷打进2球，姆巴佩帽子戏法连追2球，比赛战成3-3平手，最终进入残酷的点球大战。阿根廷在点球大战中胜出，睽违36年再次捧起世界杯冠军奖杯。颁奖典礼上，卡达王室为梅西披上了当地传统长袍，再让他捧起金光闪闪的奖杯。这个画面传遍全世界，成为足球史上最经典的一幕之一。梅西在那届赛事拿下了金球奖，也就是最佳球员奖项，成为史上第一位2度拿下这项殊荣的球员。赛后转播镜头拍到梅西在场边落泪，那不是失败的眼泪，而是20年等待终于等到答案的眼泪。夺冠当下，梅西在社群媒体发布的庆祝照片，在很短的时间内就被疯狂转发分享，一度成为当时社群平台上按赞数最高的贴文之一，证明了他的故事早已超越足球迷的范围，触动了全世界无数观众的心。那张披着长袍捧杯的照片，也在中东地区掀起热烈回响。许多当地球迷认为那个画面是文化被尊重看见的时刻。这个插曲让梅西的世界杯夺冠多了一层跨文化交流的意义。从10岁被诊断生长激素不足，到35岁捧起世界杯金杯，梅西的故事几乎走完了完整的人生弧线。2023年，梅西离开巴黎圣日耳曼，加入美国职业足球大联盟球队迈阿密国际。这个决定同样让外界跌破眼镜，很多人质疑他为什么要在巅峰之后选择一个相对次要的联赛踢球。梅西加盟迈阿密国际之后，在美国掀起了一股罕见的足球热潮，球队的门票价格暴涨数倍，许多场次一票难求。媒体形容这股现象为梅西效应，证明了他的个人魅力已经超越单一联赛的边界。但梅西用行动证明了这个选择的价值，他带领迈阿密国际打进队史从未有过的高度。2025年更协助球队拿下队史第1座美职联冠军杯，自己也连续拿下联盟最有价值球员的殊荣。值得一提的是，梅西多年前就成立了以自己名字命名的慈善基金会，主要关注弱势儿童的医疗与教育资源。这个选择和他自己童年缺乏医疗资源的经历有着密切关联。他曾说，自己小时候受过的苦，不希望其他孩子也要经历一次。回顾梅西的一生，我们看到几个特别值得深思的地方。第一，他的成功从来不是靠先天条件。一个被医生断言长不高的孩子，靠着自律和坚持完成了艰辛的治疗，才有机会踏上职业球场。身体上的限制没有定义他的天花板。第二，外界的质疑声音有时候比对手更难缠。 梅西曾经因为不被理解而一度想放弃国家队，但他选择回到球场，用时间和坚持证明自己。这提醒我们，有时候证明自己最好的方式，不是争辩，而是继续前进。第三，迟来的成就依然珍贵。很多人在梅西20几岁时，就已经称他为史上最伟大的球员，但他自己始终觉得少了一块拼图，直到35岁那一刻才终于完整。这告诉我们，追求意义的旅程，没有标准的截止日期。第四，伟大不必然要靠张扬的姿态证明。和许多性格外放的球星不同，梅西始终选择用场上的表现说话。这种安静却扎实的坚持，提醒我们证明自己的方式不止一种。沉默的累积，有时候比喧哗的宣誓更有力量。梅西一向以低调沉默的性格闻名，在镜头前话不多，和许多喜欢张扬的球星形成强烈对比。他曾说，球场上的表现比任何言语都更有说服力。他与同年就认识的女友安托尼拉·罗库佐结婚，两人育有3个儿子。即使身价惊人，他的私生活始终保持着罗萨里奥街头男孩的朴实作风。他至今仍常常带着家人回到罗萨里奥探亲，偶尔还会被拍到在老家附近的街头巷弄里走动，和当年那个踢着球到处跑的男孩没有太大的距离。这种对根源的眷恋，或许也是他始终能保持谦逊的原因之一。从一个每天晚上要自己往腿上打针的小男孩，到捧起世界杯金杯痛哭的男人，梅西的故事告诉我们，真正的伟大，往往需要用整整一辈子去证明。我们下次见咯。Hello everyone, I am Jenny. Welcome to Thinker J. Today we are talking about a man whose own body once refused to cooperate with him. Doctors said he would never grow tall. No club was willing to pay for the treatment he needed. But 20 years later, he lifted the World Cup trophy above his head, recognized by the entire world as one of the greatest players in the history of football. His name is Lionel Messi. Today we are going to walk through his long journey, from a small boy whose growth had stalled, all the way to the summit of the entire footballing world, and the tears that took nearly 20 years to finally arrive. It is a story about a body that once refused to grow, and a will that, in the end, refused to stop. Messi was born on June 24, 1987, in Argentina. His birthplace was Rosario, an industrial city famous for its football culture. His family was an ordinary working-class household. His father worked at a steel factory. His mother worked as a cleaner. Almost everyone in Messi's family loved football. His older brothers played. By the time he was a little past 4 years old, he was already playing in the streets alongside them. His grandmother often took him to watch the local team train, and she reportedly even convinced coaches to let him play despite being younger than the required age. Messi has spoken many times about how much his grandmother influenced him. He said that after scoring a goal, he has a habit of looking up toward the sky. That gesture is his way of remembering her. At the age of 6, Messi joined the youth team of Newell's Old Boys, the local club in Rosario. His talent revealed itself very quickly. He was small in stature, yet he possessed remarkable ball control and speed. Coaches from opposing teams often complained, insisting a child this small could not possibly be the age listed on the registration form, suspecting the team had used a falsified birth certificate. By the time Barcelona discovered him, Messi had scored close to 500 goals in youth competition, a number that later became one of the most talked about legends in football. But right as Messi's talent was beginning to shine, a serious problem emerged. When Messi was 10 years old, doctors discovered that he had essentially stopped growing since the age of 9. The diagnosis was growth hormone deficiency. Without treatment, he might not even reach 150 centimeters in height as an adult. The treatment required a daily hormone injection. It was expensive, costing about 1,000 pesos a month, an amount that was extremely difficult for a working-class family to afford. Messi's father initially managed to cover 2 years of treatment through his company insurance. Newell's club also agreed at first to help share the cost. But the club later went back on that promise. Every single night, the young Messi had to give himself the injection, pushing the needle into his own thigh to administer the growth hormone. This routine continued for several years. He later said that period of his life taught him discipline and endurance. River Plate, another major Argentine club, had once shown interest in signing him, but they too ultimately backed away, unable to justify covering such a large medical expense. Messi later recalled those years of giving himself daily injections without much dramatic self-pity in his tone. He said that in the beginning he was genuinely afraid, and the moment the needle pierced his skin always hurt. But over time he learned to live alongside that fear. He said the experience taught him, very early in life, that some forms of pain simply cannot be avoided, and the only real option is learning to coexist with them. This early maturity later showed up in his temperament on the field as well. Even when fouled roughly by opponents, even under a mountain of criticism, he rarely displayed a loss of emotional control, as though those childhood nights of gritting his teeth and pushing through had already built the foundation of his composure. The turning point arrived in the year 2000. A Barcelona scout named Carles Rexach watched Messi train in Argentina and was immediately stunned by his talent. Rexach was eager to lock in the deal on the spot but had no formal contract paper on hand. He wrote the terms of a verbal agreement on a paper napkin from the restaurant table, promising that Barcelona would cover Messi's medical expenses and admit him into the La Masia Youth Academy. That famous napkin contract later became one of the most widely told stories in the history of football. As a young child, Messi was almost never seen without a ball at his feet, not a phone, a football. Neighbors used to say that wherever this child walked, a ball somehow rolled along beside him. Aside from eating and sleeping, nearly every waking hour was spent playing. He was noticeably smaller than boys his own age, and people around the neighborhood nicknamed him the Flea, describing the nimble, hard-to-catch way he moved on the field. He rarely played and roughhoused with children his own age. Instead he preferred joining his older brothers, who were several years ahead of him, on the field. Forced to compete at a disadvantage in size and strength, he had no choice but to develop a far more delicate level of ball control to make up for his physical shortcomings, a habit that unexpectedly became the foundation of the playing style he would carry for the rest of his career. Messi's family relocated to Barcelona, Spain, for this opportunity, beginning a completely unfamiliar new life. His father stayed in Barcelona to accompany him, while his mother remained in Argentina with the other children for a period, splitting the family across 2 continents for some time. At La Masia, Messi continued receiving growth hormone treatment, finally completing the therapy at the age of 14. His adult height eventually settled at around 170 centimeters. Although still considered short for a professional footballer, this far exceeded the most pessimistic predictions doctors had once made. Messi quickly became one of the most dazzling talents within the La Masia youth system. That particular youth squad later became known as the Baby Dream Team, producing several players who would go on to dominate world football for years to come. In 2004, Messi officially made his debut for Barcelona's first team. He was only 17 years old at the time, one of the youngest players ever to appear for the club. In 2005, Messi scored his first official goal for Barcelona, assisted by Ronaldinho, who was then considered the best player in the world. That goal was widely seen as a symbolic passing of the torch between eras. Over the following decade and more, Messi built an almost unimaginable record at Barcelona. He led the team to multiple Champions League titles while continuously breaking his own scoring records. He won the Ballon d'Or, widely regarded as the highest individual honor in football, a total of 8 times, a record that remains unbroken to this day. This era of Messi's career carried one unavoidable storyline, his rivalry with the Portuguese superstar Cristiano Ronaldo, a rivalry that stretched on for well over a decade. The two men dominated world football during almost exactly the same period, one reserved and quiet, the other bold and supremely confident, 2 completely different personalities and playing styles that kept fans arguing for nearly 20 years over who truly deserved to be called the best. Objectively, this rivalry pushed both men to even greater heights than either might have reached alone. In 2009, Messi led Barcelona to win all 6 trophies available to them in a single season, an achievement that remains almost impossible to replicate in the history of club football to this day. That era of the Barcelona squad has since been called by many commentators one of the greatest teams the sport has ever seen. And yet, while Messi was virtually unstoppable at the club level, his journey with the Argentine national team proved far more difficult. For years, outside observers repeatedly questioned him, claiming that no matter how well he played for Barcelona, he somehow became a different player once he put on the Argentina jersey. Some commentators even suggested he did not care enough about his own country. At the 2014 World Cup, Messi led Argentina all the way to the final, only to lose to Germany in extra time, missing the title by the narrowest of margins. At the 2015 Copa America final, Argentina again fell short in a penalty shootout. A year later, at the 2016 Copa America final, the exact same script repeated itself. 3 consecutive years reaching a major final, and 3 consecutive years stumbling at the very last step. Messi broke down emotionally on the sideline afterward and briefly announced his retirement from the national team. At the 2018 World Cup, Argentina again underperformed expectations, eliminated in the round of 16. Wave after wave of criticism followed him. Some commentators even declared that Messi was simply destined never to win a World Cup in his lifetime. That moment was one of the lowest points of his entire career. He felt as though he might never be able to deliver a major trophy for his country. But after being persuaded by fans and teammates, Messi changed his mind and decided to return to the national team, continuing to chase what seemed like an impossibly distant dream. In 2021, the turning point finally arrived. Argentina faced its fiercest rival Brazil in the Copa America final, held at the famous Maracanã Stadium in Brazil itself. Argentina defeated the host nation 1-0, ending a 28-year drought without a major trophy. Messi finally lifted his first senior international championship while wearing the Argentina jersey. This victory is widely regarded as the single most important turning point of Messi's entire career. Nearly all the earlier doubts about whether he truly loved his country evaporated in that moment. After that season, due to severe financial difficulties at Barcelona, Messi was forced to leave the club he had represented for nearly 2 decades, moving instead to the French powerhouse Paris Saint-Germain. This transfer shocked the entire football world. Many fans found it difficult to imagine seeing Messi in a jersey other than Barcelona's. During his time in Paris, Messi helped the team win league titles, though his overall performance still fell somewhat short of the extremely high expectations placed upon him. The true defining moment of Messi's career arrived at the 2022 World Cup. That tournament was held in Qatar. Messi was already 35 years old. Most observers assumed this would be the final World Cup of his career. Argentina suffered a shocking group stage defeat to Saudi Arabia, and pessimism spread widely across the football world, with some observers even suggesting Argentina might fail to advance past the group stage entirely. But Messi and his teammates withstood the pressure, giving everything in every match that followed. They defeated the Netherlands in the quarter-final, then beat a formidable Croatia side in the semi-final, advancing match after match all the way to the final. Throughout the tournament, Messi displayed a calm and leadership that seemed to transcend his age. Cameras repeatedly caught him encouraging his younger teammates on the sideline, revealing a more mature and gentle side of the man widely regarded as the greatest player of his generation. Their opponent in the final was France, led by the young superstar Kylian Mbappé, who was at the peak of his powers at the time. That final has been described by many commentators as the greatest World Cup final in history. Messi scored first for Argentina to make it 2 goals, Mbappé scored a hat-trick to level the match at 3-3, and the game went into a brutal penalty shootout. Argentina won the shootout, lifting the World Cup trophy for the first time in 36 years. At the award ceremony, members of the Qatari royal family draped Messi in a traditional regional robe before he lifted the gleaming golden trophy. That image spread around the entire world, becoming one of the most iconic moments in the history of football. Messi won the tournament's Golden Ball award for Best Player, becoming the first player in history to win that honor twice. Broadcast cameras caught Messi crying on the sideline after the match. Those were not tears of defeat. They were tears belonging to a question that had finally, after 20 years of waiting, received its answer. The celebration photo Messi posted on social media in the moments after the victory was shared and reshared at an astonishing pace, briefly becoming one of the most liked posts on that platform at the time, proof that his story had already reached far beyond the world of football fans, touching countless viewers across the globe. That image of him draped in the traditional robe while lifting the trophy also generated an enthusiastic response across the Middle East. Many local fans felt the moment represented a rare instance of their culture being seen and respected on the world's biggest stage. That small episode added an additional layer of cross-cultural meaning to Messi's World Cup triumph. From being diagnosed with growth hormone deficiency at age 10 to lifting the World Cup trophy at age 35, Messi's story traced out something close to a complete arc of an entire human life. In 2023, Messi left Paris Saint-Germain to join Inter Miami in Major League Soccer in the United States. This decision once again surprised much of the outside world. Many people questioned why, at the very peak of his career, he would choose to play in what was considered a relatively minor league. After Messi joined Inter Miami, an unusual wave of football fever swept across the United States. Ticket prices for the club surged several times over, and many matches sold out entirely. Media outlets described the phenomenon as the Messi effect, proof that his personal appeal had grown far beyond the boundaries of any single league. But Messi proved the value of that choice through his actions. He led Inter Miami to heights the club had never reached before, and in 2025 he helped the team win its first ever MLS Cup championship, while also winning back-to-back League Most Valuable Player awards himself. It is worth noting that years earlier, Messi had already established a charitable foundation bearing his own name, focused primarily on medical care and educational resources for disadvantaged children. This choice is closely tied to his own childhood experience of lacking access to medical resources. He has said that he does not want other children to have to go through what he himself once suffered. Looking back on Messi's life, there are several things especially worth reflecting on. First, his success was never built on natural advantage alone. A child doctors once predicted would never grow tall relied on discipline and persistence to complete a difficult medical treatment, giving him even the chance to step onto a professional field at all. Physical limitation did not define the ceiling of what he could become. Second, outside doubt can sometimes be harder to face than any opponent. Messi once nearly walked away from the national team because he felt misunderstood. But he chose to return to the field, proving himself through time and persistence rather than argument. This reminds us that sometimes the best way to prove yourself is not to debate, but simply to keep moving forward. Third, an achievement that arrives late is no less precious for its lateness. Many people had already called Messi the greatest player in history back when he was still in his 20s. Yet he himself always felt one piece of the puzzle was missing, a piece that did not complete itself until that moment at age 35. This tells us that the pursuit of meaning has no standard deadline. Fourth, greatness does not necessarily need to prove itself through a flashy posture. Unlike many outwardly flamboyant sports stars, Messi always chose to let his performance on the field speak for him. This quiet, steady persistence reminds us that there is more than one way to prove yourself. A silent accumulation of effort can sometimes carry more weight than the loudest declaration. Messi has always been known for his quiet, understated personality. He says little in front of cameras, standing in sharp contrast to many flashier stars of the sport. He once said that performance on the field speaks louder than any words ever could. He married Antonella Rocuzzo, a woman he has known since childhood back in Rosario, and the two have 3 sons together. Despite his extraordinary wealth, his personal life has remained rooted in the same modest style of the boy who once played in the streets of Rosario. To this day, he still frequently brings his family back to Rosario to visit relatives, and he has occasionally been photographed simply walking the streets near his childhood home, not so different from the boy who once ran everywhere chasing a ball. This lingering attachment to his roots may be one of the reasons he has always managed to remain humble. From a small boy who had to inject his own thigh every single night, to a man weeping while lifting the Golden World Cup trophy, Messi's story tells us that true greatness often takes an entire lifetime to prove, and that the years spent waiting for an answer are never wasted, even when, for a very long time, no answer seems to be coming at all. See you next time.